Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbor claimed he owns a piece of my property. I got his building sliced in half." You know what I don't see too many stories of around here? Ones where the crazy neighbor is old instead of a typical Karen age. Maybe it does not happen as often, but I can tell you that at least for me, I had an insane neighbor who was a single man in his 60s. So maybe not super old, but older than most of the neighbor stories I have read about. Maybe it's a cultural thing and only crazy older men live here in Latvia. Either way, I wanna tell everyone about this guy who bought the house next to me a while back and then months later started building this shed/utility building. I'm not really sure what I would call it because it was like another mini building on his property, but I think he was just using it for storage. The only issue with it was that it was going over the property line and onto my land. It was not just an inch over, but pretty much half of this building was now sitting on my property and I was not happy about it. We were not in a rural area, so we did not really have giant properties or anything to begin with, so with him doing this, I was feeling a little bit cramped. I thought that maybe he did not know where the property line was supposed to be, so I thought I would be nice and go on over to let him know before the building was finished. This way, he could adjust things and move it over or make it a little bit smaller. Me, "Hey there, I was hoping you had a minute to talk about what you are building over here." "Neighbor, what's it to you? Want to sneak onto my land and get a good look at what I'm doing, huh?" He was really grumpy and also had a bit of a creepy tone to his voice that I cannot really explain with words. I was a little taken back at his sudden response though. Me, it is just that the property line is actually over here, and as you can see, the building is going quite a bit over that line. I just thought that you would want to know before it was done and then you could move it. "Neighbor, now look here, I'm not going to be moving this for nobody. You think that you're entitled to anything you want, but let me tell you something. This is my home, and if I want to build something, I'm not going to let someone like you tell me that I cannot." Me, I don't want you to stop building it, I just don't want it being built on my side of the property line. "Neighbor, you better get yourself away from me and my land right now. If I see you over here again, I swear that I will kill you." This threat did its job in scaring me, and before I knew it, I was slinking away back to my home. While I did not like him doing it, this was not worth getting myself killed over fighting with him. Instead, I sent for the town to send me blueprints of where the property line is, so that I could have written proof that it was on my land. It was all in the system, so there was no need for an actual inspector, and this made me glad considering how crazy this guy was. While I waited for that, I just watched from my home as his building was finished. I noticed that going in and out of that building, he would always be storing and taking out guns. I never really liked guns, but my father was in the military and taught me a little bit about them. The thing is that like most places, some guns are legal if you have a permit and some you cannot have no matter what. I was seeing some of those types by the building, so I had a strong feeling all of his guns were illegal. That scared me even more now, since he threatened to kill me, that I knew he had the weapons to actually do it. The report came back and I was right that the thing he built was just about halfway onto my property and half on his. I had to figure out what I wanted to do about it though. I wanted to report him for it without getting myself shot in the process. So instead of the town, I went to the police station and told them the entire story about him building illegally and me being too scared to try and get it sorted because he threatened to kill me. I also told them he was using that building to store guns, some of which I was able to identify as illegal, and they were willing to help me with the matter. I went back home with one officer and the others went to the neighbor's house with a warrant they got to search the building. He did not want them, but had no choice as they walked in and saw all of his illegal guns. That plus the verbal threat of killing me was enough to arrest him for both things, and he was put in the back of the car and sent to jail as the cops confiscated all of his guns. Going back to the building though, I was now able to contest that it was on my land without the fear of the neighbor. I won, and he was given a week to take care of the situation before I was allowed to take matters into my own hands. The only problem was he was in jail and had nobody on the outside to help him handle things. So I got to be in charge, and I knew what I wanted to do with the building. I could not tear the entire thing down since it was not all on my property, but instead I hired somebody to follow the property line exactly and cut his new building in half the entire way across. I have to say that it is very satisfying to watch a guy take a chainsaw and slice an entire building right down the middle. It also gave me a chance to be a little nosy and see exactly what else was in there besides the guns that got taken away. I wish that it could have been something cool, but it was empty and I could just see spaces that were designed to hold guns, so he really was just building a fancy looking gun shed. The joke is really on him though, because he has no guns now and his building to store them is ripped right down the center and useless. Under normal circumstances I would say he could build another wall and try to fix it, but I think that will be a problem. The number of charges he has against him are huge, and I think any money he has is going to a lawyer to try and keep him from spending the rest of his life in jail. He had so many illegal guns that I just know he is not going to have a good defense enough to get him out of it all. I've got no idea if he got sent to prison or for how long, but I can tell you one thing. His house was never put on sale and his half of the building stood for a while. Then it rained and got so gross with animals trying to live inside of it that the town took the rest down as a matter of public safety. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would hope that this entitled neighbor learned his lesson, because obviously he lost quite a bit of property in this conflict. Either way, I'm curious, if you ever had issues with your own neighbors, then I would really appreciate it if you could share your own stories either in the comments or on r/Ripe Stories on Reddit, where you can post your own stories. Furthermore, I would also appreciate it if you could like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled Garbage Issues. I worked in civil services in one of the most dangerous cities in my state. A city of only 300,000, but with 2 or 3 murders a month and violent crime several times a day, every day. So, while I understand little things can be annoying, the city has more important things to do than paying somebody to drive 25 minutes across town to deal with ridiculous neighborhood bickering, especially when there were not enough hours in the day to help all the people who called with actual problems. That being said, the city had a policy of responding to every single citizen's call, regardless of how stupid and wasteful it was. One day, a call came across my computer from an anonymous caller. I will call her Petty Betty, reporting the neighbor across the street that had left their empty garbage cans at the curb for 4 hours after pickup, and the caller demanded the owner be cited for it. The caller was listed as refused and non-contact, which means just like it sounds. The person wanted me to do their dirty work, but were too chicken crap to speak to me like an adult about their concerns. So across town I drove, and as I barely slowed down while driving past the offending cans, I cleared the call by typing, "Yes, can confirm. There are in fact 2 cans sitting in the gutter as described, but cannot confirm with non-contact RP what time garbage was picked up, so call closed." Also noted numerous other unrelated cans left out in the neighborhood. About 10 minutes go by and another call comes in from irate Petty Betty stating she had watched me drive away without even stopping to do my job and investigate things. Betty knows the law and demands the homeowner be cited for the eyesore. She even mentioned the correct obscure city ordinance stating cans could not be out 4 hours after pickup. Oh boy, you sure caught me, Betty, so back I go. This time I get out, and as I am pulling the cans back 3 whole feet so they are on the owner's grass and in technical compliance, I give a little finger wave towards Betty's home just so she knows that I know that she is peeping out the curtains, and then I leave. Not the most professional thing to do, but there was no way I was citing some poor neighbor for stupid garbage cans, but I was over it and on to other things without another thought. But like an annoying gnat that won't leave you alone, a few minutes later I get a private heads-up message from a concerned coworker that Petty Betty was calling to file a complaint with my supervisor. And sure enough, later that day I had a good laugh when my supervisor blamed me for making him snort laugh as Petty Betty described my passive-aggressive wave towards her house, and it pissed her off that he didn't care about the cans either. Now the super petty revenge part. Every time I drove by that house and the cans were out, I stopped to move them to the edge of the lawn just to piss off Petty Betty, and I waved each and every time. I hope she saw me. Edit: I should have been more clear about the stupid 4-hour thing. It's an obscure, never used ordinance, and in all my years there, this was the one and only time I ever heard or thought about it. The only reason I moved the cans was to make a point and to piss Petty Betty off. The next one is titled Neighbors Are Insane. So on today's episode of What the Hell from the Neighbors, I need to have them approve when I do things that make any sort of noise. My neighbor just rang my doorbell to tell me his wife said to stop hammering. I was dumbfounded. I just kind of stared and said, "Excuse me?" And he informed me that we would be unable to make any sort of noise for the next few months because of their baby. To which I laughed in his face and closed the door. And now his wife is screaming at my door and he is messaging me to please just do what his wife says. So anyway, some background. My spouse bought this house in 2011. Both houses are single-family detached homes. Both lots are 1.5 lots, so there is 33 feet roughly between our houses compared to the 6 feet for the rest of the street. Neighbor's husband was already in his house. I moved in 8 years ago. Shortly after, I saw the neighbor for the first time, and it was someone I have known since I was 4. Went to school all the way through high school together. We are 40. 3 years ago he met someone. She had at the time a 2-year-old girl. We would stay at his house and I would constantly find the kid wandering the streets. They would just send her outside with no supervision, no toys, no fenced yard, and expect her to entertain herself. The child was and still is nothing but a brat. 2 years ago, she moved in with her daughter. I run a daycare, so my yard is full of fun toys. However, we also have 3 other fenced-off areas, one for our pool in the summer, one for our dogs, and one for our hot tub. All of them have separate fences and self-closing gates, plus my external fence is 6 feet. During 2020, when COVID hit bad, the kids were doing virtual schooling from home. She never actually did it though. She would be ringing my doorbell in the middle of the day, asking me to open my yard for her. I would explain that she cannot be here when I have daycare kids and my daughter will come out to play after supper. She went to their backyard, dragged patio furniture to my fence and climbed in. Who knows how long she was actually in there, but she decided she was done and then couldn't get out. The latch for my main gate is at the very top, so the babies cannot open it when my back is turned. She started screaming and I ran out in a panic. Then took her home, explained what happened to the mom, and mom gave me crap for not allowing her to play. I would face a $100,000 fine if she is caught on my property during daycare hours. I explained this and she still snapped and called me a witch. I left it at that. Happened a handful more times. I started sending them daycare invoices. However, it still kept happening. I finally told them I would have to call the police next time, which I did. Except this time, mom and grandpa were both sitting outside on the stairs and watched her do. Also never bothered to come help her open the gate when she started screaming. Police gave them crap and told them to stop or mom would be charged with child endangerment. I know I have proximity sensors at the top of my fence and now get a notification if anything goes over my fence. It's gotten better as she has gotten older, so last summer we set up our above-ground pool. Just ordered a new pump system and a heater. Pool was half filled. I had also just done up all my planters. I casually glance at my security cameras and see her by the pool. I head out, main gate was open as the neighborhood kids were running from yard to yard playing. She took it upon herself to go to the pool and take buckets of soil from my planters and dump it into the pool. $400 damage to my brand new $1,000 pump and heater system that was up less than 4 hours. I snapped and screamed at her to get out of my yard and not come back. She is not allowed in my yard at all anymore unless me or my spouse is out there. Now to the current time, they had a new baby last week and me hammering in my basement is disturbing them in their house 33 feet away. And they expect me to wait until the fall to finish my project. So I am currently sitting on my bench outside, enjoying a glass of water with my outdoor speakers, playing metal while I mow the lawn, which is more louder than the little bit of hammering. I will finish that tonight after dark. Edit, lots of people are saying to call the police and CPS. I do call police when I feel it's necessary, but we have a major drug gang issue and they are busy with that and overdoses. If I call because it is non-violent and they recognize the address, it is at least 24 hours or usually not at all. I have spoken with child protection agents and this does not fall under their umbrella. It is not neglect. The kid does not listen, end of story. It's not like the parents are telling her to do it. As for those concerned about her wandering the neighborhood, I'm in a smaller city. My kid has been playing by herself in the neighborhood with regular check-ins since she was 4. I have no issues with that. At 2 and 3 when she originally did it, it was ridiculous. As for saying not to let my daughter play with her, I cannot take away my daughter's entire friend group, which is exactly what would happen. We are one of 3 houses in a row with kids. House number 1 has 3 kids, house number 2, the problem house, has 2 kids, house number 3, which is me, has 1 kid. House 1 and 2 all go to the same school, they are already outside playing by the time my daughter gets home. My daughter does activities on Saturday and Sunday mornings, so the same thing. Therefore, not allowing my daughter to play with 1 kid also takes 4 others away. And the next one is titled Typical Neighbor from Hell's Story. Background: I rent a house. My landlord is a slumlord who happens to own several houses on my street, including the one next to me. I've lived here for years now. The new neighbors moved in right before the new year. We have a shared driveway that is shaped like a Y. We both enter on the same part and then I go right to get to my driveway. They go left to park in theirs. For the last 2 months, they block me in or out of my driveway no less than 2 times a week by not pulling all the way up into their branch of the driveway. All 4 of the roommates living there have blocked me at least twice. I'm not going to go into details, but it is a huge annoyance to me and I've let them and the landlord know how stupid I think they are, and I have no issues about waking them all up at 3 AM to move one of their cars, and yet they still do it. The revenge: our neighborhood has a lot of crime, it is also very dark, no streetlights to be found. These guys called the landlord and convinced him they needed floodlights. I already have a floodlight which faces the driveway and in doing so shines right on the side of their house. However, one bulb went out and the other was not wired correctly, and so now it doesn't work at all. They demanded the landlord fix my light as well as install one for them, and apparently he is as tired of them as I am, so he consented without my approval or even notifying me, and some guy came over to my house while I was at work and replaced the entire floodlight with one of those automatic lights. Timer light won't turn on during the day but comes on by itself at night. As it turns out, their house did not have the wiring to install a new one, but since mine shines on the whole upper part of the driveway, he figured only mine was needed. So they didn't get a light. I didn't even notice it until one of those guys came over and talked to me the next day. Girl explained the above situation, so it would be great if you could just keep it on so our houses are a little safer. It's so nice that the landlord got you an automatic one, so you don't even have to worry about remembering to turn it on. Me, I don't think so. Money has been pretty tight and I just don't think I can afford a higher electric bill. Girl, it is only a light. It cannot be more than like 2 cents a day. Me, still, I just got used to not having a light there and I think it would shine in my window and keep me up at night. I'm fine like it is. Girl gets increasingly frustrated. It's only a few more cents and it will really make us feel safer at night. And here is where I just stop even remotely trying to be polite. Me, yeah, well, I don't really care about how you all feel at night. If you guys cannot take the extra 2 seconds to pull farther forward and not park like complete a-holes, then don't expect me to pay the extra 2 cents for a light so you can sleep better at night. Get the F off my porch, and next time you block my driveway, I'm having your car towed. The other day I was unlocking my front door right as one of them pulled up. The switch for the floodlight is right inside the doorway, so I flipped it on and it got their attention, and then I turned it back off, smiled and waved and went inside my house. F you, I win. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.